Very much, Prof. and the faculty. I have a wonderful team from Ato, Charlotte, myself, and that of Solomon. So without wasting much time, let's begin. I also want to thank our mentor, Salasi, for helping us through all these weeks. So our topic today, or the defense project, will be on financial intelligence and strategic leadership. And we use the case study of ABSA Bank Ghana Limited and the relation between organizational performance, sustainability, and that of financial intelligence. So that's it. So a case study of ABSA Bank Ghana Limited on organizational performance and sustainability. So one may ask, is there a particular relationship between financial intelligence and that of strategic leadership decision making? And does it have an impact on the performance of an organization, or maybe the long-term sustainability of any organization? Well, we seek to know further in our discussion. So we took ABSA Bank Ghana Limited, which used to be called Barclays Bank some years ago. I think they branded their name in 2020. So we are motivated by the Ghana banking sector cleanup somewhere from 2017 through to 2019, of which some banks were affected. Well, some banks were able to withstand, and they have been resilient up to now, of which ABSA Bank, which forms part of our case study, was part of those 23 banks that weren't affected. So we use the upper echelons theory, which further in our discussion, you'll get to know the reason and why it fits in our discussion. Then finally, we will just establish the connection if there's a brother-sister relationship between financial intelligence and the leadership decision-making of the organization through the time of the structural cleanup, I may put it that way. So Berman and Knight and Case in 2006 identified financial intelligence as the practical ability to analyze, interpret, and apply financial information in order to make informed decisions to create and improve an organizational performance. So financial intelligence goes beyond the financial literacy that we know of. You know, financial literacy is mostly about budgeting, saving, investment, but intelligence financially, or financial intelligence, looks at the broader aspects. What is beyond the numbers, and what or how can we apply the numbers for strategic leadership? And some few weeks ago, I remember clearly that Professor Edward made mention that I think on his presentation on financial intelligence for leadership, he says that leaders are not just leaders, but they are supposed to get to know what we do with the numbers. So if they're able to understand and interpret these numbers to someone who might not even know anything, that's a hallmark of a great leader as well. So strategic leadership involves the capacity of leaders to influence organizational direction and align resources with long-term goals, which in turn affects the sustainability of the bank, or in this situation, every organization. So as I made mention, it was a historical in 2017 through to 2019 that Bank of Ghana conducted a survey, or let me say a structural program or reform. I think 420 banks or financial institutions were affected. 9 banks were affected, just to mention a few. I remember Heritage Bank, Royal Bank, Construction Bank, and the rest. And I think more than 387 microfinance and savings and loans were affected. So we seek to know today, what's the difference between an organization who is able to withstand the pressures, these structural reforms over the years. What did ABSA Bank do right, which made them sustainable enough and maintain a level of consistency during these times? So we realized that some banks were amalgamated, some banks were consolidated into some banks. So now we know some banks as CBG. Those of us in Ghana, we know banks called Consolidated Bank of Ghana. It was due to these reforms that majority of them were forced to merge, or some were even forced to exit the markets. And according to Lusadi and Mitchell, they examined the role of financial intelligence in every financial decision that we make individually. Well, since I said financial intelligence goes beyond financial literacy, we are looking at the broader aspect, that's of ABSA Bank. So this addresses a personal level, but didn't look at the broader aspects. So Berger and Berman and Knight also made mention of how financial intelligence can affect an organizational performance. So in the latter discussion, they realized that every organization whose top level hierarchy or middle level hierarchy are able to apply the financial intelligence principles to their daily operations, are able to withstand all these pressures, of which ABSA Bank, or then Barclays Bank, was part. So all these regulatory reforms that went through the year of 2017 through to 2019, it represented a lot of financial crisis that revealed that majority of these banks which were affected were purely due to two main things. That's one, they were said to be insolvent. And when I talk about insolvencies, it's about the fact that these banks weren't able to maintain a constant level of cash flow in their statements. And also talking about poor governance, those were the two things that were said. So according to Japan and Atram in 2019, that's what was also said. So we realized that organizational performance and financial intelligence have a correlation. And as I mentioned, we are using a theory called the upper echelons theory. It just wants to know that is there a link between leadership's cognition, that's financial intelligence, and the general performance and sustainability of every bank. So it's reference or assessed by the assets, how the leaders are able to assess opportunities and risk. That of putting a strategic plan in place to drive organizational performance in general. So we decided to use ABSA Bank as a qualitative single case study method, allowing for a good decision-making process. So just let's ask ourselves, what did we find? Did we find that ABSA Bank was able to withstand these pressures then through to the banking sector cleanup because they were able to be financially intelligent? Because we've realized that the upper echelon story says that people at the top level hierarchies, intelligence in the finances, are able to reflect on the organizational performance. We realize that it's true. It affects the organizational performance, improves their effectiveness, and also for sustainability in the long run. We realized that the people that were interviewed had a clear understanding of the financial intelligence application in their personal life. But in conclusion, it was meant that they know that this financial intelligence that we are talking about, it has a strategic leadership influence. So these banks had people who were knowledgeable enough, could read beyond the numbers for sustainability. It also improves the managerial decisions as these people are able to measure cost benefit analysis for optimization of these resources, because in economics, they say that they're able to maximize satisfaction at a lower cost. It also enables proactive risk management. As leaders, you're able to be proactive enough. So when you know the risk that involves the decision that you're going to make, you can't decide not to take risk, but you manage these risks that drives for a long-term performance and sustainability. And as a sensitive field like a bank, I remember in GN Bank 2018, a friend of mine went to make a withdrawal, and it was that time 8,000 cedis or 9,000. They decided not to help him out because I'm sure they didn't have money. They didn't tell him, so they told him to come the next day. I am sure they were that time insolvent, but they couldn't tell us. And I wasn't surprised when I heard GM Bank had a lot of issues with the Bank of Ghana that time. So all these banks that were able to withstand, they were 23 in number, of which ABSA Bank were included. It was realized that the performance, the sustainability is something that was influenced, according to the upper echelons theory, that the organizational performance and the financial intelligence of these people at the top level hierarchy impacts sustainability and its general operations. Thanks very much for this opportunity. God bless you.